Let's say all you ever knew were apples. Apples, apples, and more apples. You might think apples were pretty good, even if you got a rotten one once in a while. But then one day, there's an orange. And now you can make a decision. Do you want an apple, or do you want an orange? That's democracy.
I also like bananas.
There's something just so perfect about if we're looking at this idea of election to talk about our current political point where he's using apples and oranges, which is a very common way to do it, but orange as the outsider coming in to break up the apples, which we're so used to, the bananas. Orange for Trump, I mean, that's hilarious.
Yeah, spray tans, oranges. You know.
How does it even happen that perfectly?
Banana, Bernie. It's like they predicted it, man. Alexander Payne knew.
It's weird. I think for us, partially because election has it's very much part of the culture of people who care about movies in Omaha, all the Alexander Payne stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if people, I guess I don't really know what the experience is like for people who live in other places, but I know that, if you live in New York, there's movies that are made about New York all the time. There's a lot of big cities where people do make movies a lot. So for there to be certain movies that show certain parts of town or talk about certain things, I don't think it's as big of a deal. Whereas here, people still talk about.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about Alexander Payne besides from you and maybe one other person.
Maybe people just tell me.
I think they just assume you're like, oh yeah, there's a director who lives here. It's
well, I told you even before we did the show today that one time my grandpa was bragging to me about how the waitress at the place he ate was an extra in About Schmidt. So.
I think mine goes a little further to where one of my high school friends was like, oh yeah, him and my mom used to go out a lot. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Alexander Payne?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
You
tell me that. That was interesting.
So that's where...
We got some gossip on Payne here.
I know, right? Blackmail him. Have him be in one of our movies.
We've got the perfect role for him because he owns a Chinese restaurant downtown in Omaha, and Chris and I went to go eat there one time, and Chris's fantasy as we were eating there was that Alexander Payne would come out and be our busboy.
Oh yeah, he's yelling at the staff.
And then he goes back, he's doing all the jobs except...
He's everything. He is King Fong.
He is King Fong. King Fong, I think, is closed right now.
Like permanently? Or is it still this temporary kind of closed?
It's like Dundee temporary closed. We need film streams to buy it, and then it might come back.
Yeah. If we're lucky. Eventually, 5 years down the road.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, tonight's show, I keep saying, like it's live, like we're
Tuesday night's show.
Tuesday morning's show. Or no, Monday morning. We don't even know what day our show is on.
I thought it comes out on Monday or on Tuesday.
Comes out Monday mornings.
I think I'm just so used to our Tuesday. Every show we've ever done has been on Tuesday.
We've done so many Tuesday shows. Yeah. This is a Monday morning show.
Weird.
Which is also Halloween. So we kind of did our couple. Yeah. We did our Shining show, and we did our Dracula show.
This is the greatest American horror that there is.
This is the real season. Horror. Yeah, election season, because it's also almost election day.
Oh man.
And it's coming up.
9 days to go. I think that's it. 8. It's November 8th, right?
Yeah. 9 days?
9 days. Oh, man.
Depends on what we're talking about today or when the day the podcast comes out. And
especially
when we think it's Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, so
never mind.
How many days away is kind of relative to when people are listening to it. But early voting in Nebraska, for example, is already open.
It is.
I voted.
I found out I was registered. I was really worried.
You didn't know you were registered?
Well, I was really worried that I wasn't. And I'm like, oh, man, I better check if I'm registered. I can go on there.
Because you got all these dinners that you have to collect.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I've got a lot of bribes I got to cash in. But yeah, no, I go online and sure enough, it's like, yep, you're a registered libertarian, I guess. And I'm like,
you're a libertarian.
I guess so.
When did you register as a libertarian? That's interesting. They're gonna be mad at you.
Right.
I got cornered by some Gary Johnson supporters the other day.
Someone called on the phone and I told them, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna vote for Gary, and they're like, oh, okay. And I was like, I'm not really.
You're just screwing with them?
Yeah, I just gave them false information. It's like, that's not against the law, is it?
Skewed polls.
Yeah,
they're rigged. The election's rigged.
You're not allowed to ask me who I'm voting for, so I'm not going to tell you. So
you're allowed to ask.
No, you're not.
Yeah, you are.
Am I not supposed to tell?
You can say whatever you want.
I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to talk about who you vote for and shit like that. That's
it's not like a birthday wish. It's not like it invalidates it.
It'd be kind of funny if it does.
But, if you talk about it, your vote doesn't count. You're gonna get rid of it.
Put your vote under your pillow.
No, they can ask. You can answer if you want to. You just don't have to.
Weird. I thought it was I don't know. thought you weren't supposed
Don't
to
ask, don't tell.
Yeah, I figured it applied to votes too. My political orientation.
I love that you're a libertarian. I find that interesting.
Yeah. I figured I would have registered as just like a plain old independent.
That's what I am. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think I just wanted to choose something that wasn't one of the big two, and so I was probably like 18, like signing up for whatever, and I'm like, yeah, sure, put me down as one of those.
It's nice to feel like you're a part of some organized party.
Yeah.
And then you learn about the parties, and you realize I don't really want to be affiliated with that.
Well, and then I guess I'm not as politically educated as I probably should be, and I found out that depending on who you register, it determines what all you can vote on in general, which I think is the dumbest,
Well, especially
proposition in the world.
in primaries, that's more of an issue.
Okay.
Because there's some like you can't. In some states, you couldn't vote for either the Republican or the Democrat, depending on how their primary or caucus is.
But still, I feel like that's the point of registering. Is it independent? Is so that you can
pick.
So that
They
you
should
can pick.
cater to the
But you
independents.
can't.
They want
No.
the independent votes. They just act like they
but
don't.
they can't get them when it matters.
Yeah, this is like what if we just turned this into a politics show?
That's just what this one day is.
It's just our politics episode. It is kind of
Politics will be over in the United States by the time we're done with this, and then
they've got a week to listen to this, leading up to as all the horror, all American
the
horror
suspense builds.
is going on, and then no one will probably care after November 8th.
No, I'm so excited.
For it to be over?
Oh yeah,
me too.
There's gonna be news that's not political news.
God, yeah, I can
It's
check
gonna be
Twitter
fantastic.
and not just
man.
freak out about Trump
Yeah.
all the time. I can't.
Or even just like your regular Facebook feed or Twitter feed. It's like it's not gonna be someone complaining about the election.
That's true. I can.
Oh,
like
man.
NPR maybe will have other topics to talk about
Yeah.
occasionally. I don't even remember what the world was like before this election started.
No, I feel like this started like before Obama even got voted in. Like for the first time around.
I feel like I was born and Hillary and Trump had already started running, and it's just been the news. It's been encompassing. It's been exhausting. I'm tired of it.
I think it's funny that it's big news overseas too.
Yeah,
Like
they're all-
other countries are watching this
everyone's
stupid-ass
freaking out.
spectacle, and it's just like really.
We're all sucked into this void
Yeah.
of this crazy election.
Yeah.
And apparently it was even, we're talking about, it feels like it's been going on forever. Apparently 17 years ago, Alexander Payne had it figured
He
out
knew.
too. So we're going to go to our first break. We're going to come back, go to box office, a little bit of news, and then we're going to dissect what exactly we see the parallels between the current craziness of the election and the movie Election directed by Alexander Payne, as well as what it's like, sort of how... I'm interested in looking at how retroactively does the fact that reality has kind of created these direct parallels change the viewing experience, especially for someone like you who just watched it.
I just watched it like 15 minutes ago that we finished it. So.
So first break, we'll be right back with Quad 2.
Quad 2.
Stay tuned. Today's show is brought to you by the Movies and Stuff YouTube channel, run by movie lovers Dan and Abe, who chat about the films they love and are often joined by actors, writers, and other people involved in making those movies. They've got some interviews with people like Andrew Kevin Walker, Robert Engels, and Nicholas Winding Refn. You can watch all their live streamed interviews, reviews, roundtables, and panel debates every week by heading over to youtube.com/moviesandstuff. Subscribe today.
Boo! Medea Halloween is still at number 1.
Oh man,
Wasn't that awful?
That was awful.
Well,
Let's cancel this
they
show.
put an exclamation point in the title, so I had to.
They.
As in
Tyler
Tyler.
Perry.
Yeah.
Tyler.
Dang it, Tyler.
Okay, so hold on a second. How much did it make again?
Another $16.6 million.
What's it up to?
So 52.
52. So as successful as you might expect for a franchise that people don't seem to like, but everybody goes to see.
They are smashing the foreign box office here with $200,000 total growth.
That's interesting, actually. So is Tyler Perry almost entirely a domestic?
99.6% apparently, according to just this movie.
Well, so far, I don't know where all it's open at this point. But so I think the thing to note there is that's been open for what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Two. Yeah, this is the second week.
2 weeks, but nonetheless, it beat out the new $75 million Robert Langdon adventure.
Oh yes, Inferno. It kind of beat it out.
Okay.
It gets a little tricky here.
Okay.
Worldwide, it made $132.7 million.
And what about domestic?
Domestic, 15.
Okay. Well, so
apparently everybody else is much more interested in the Da Vinci Code than we are. I think it kind of passed here. We got over it. And there's really, I don't think anyone would see this and think that it's the next in the series or something, like trailer.
That's true. I don't know that people.
Like,
well, first off, I don't think anyone was asking for another one.
no, I did. I forgot there was a second one after the first one. I haven't watched any of them.
They're fine, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that anybody really liked any of them. And I mean, the Da Vinci Code movie was a big success, I think, primarily because the book was a big success, and so everybody just went to go see it.
Yeah.
I remember the Catholic Church saying, "Nobody go see this
yeah.
movie," so
Everyone
everybody
was
went to
freaking
see
out
it.
about it.
Yeah.
Like, go see Passion of the Christ instead. And that was,
And so I think that the controversy around that worked for it.
Mm-hmm.
Angels and Demons comes out, and it made money, but I don't think people really cared that much. Nobody really liked it that much. Inferno, they skipped over the third book entirely.
Really?
Went to the fourth book.
Okay. Maybe they'll go back to it in like a prequel, like
Well,
sequel type thing.
I think they could. It's not like Robert Langdon's personal life is even prominent enough.
Okay.
And there's a new Robert Langdon book coming out next year. So
Robert Langdon? Wasn't it Dan Brown?
Dan Brown is the author. Robert Langdon is the main character in the series.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I got
Tom
you.
Hanks. Tom Hanks with the hair is Robert Langdon.
Oh, okay, gotcha. When he puts the wig on.
He puts the wig on, or it gets the hose again.
He gets the Forrest Gump again.
Oh
God. Number 3, Jack Reacher's hanging on with me.
I wish that was the title. Jack Reacher's hanging on.
The next one. We're still making these.
Please, please take that, Paramount or whoever.
Never Go, Never Back. Made another $9 million, so they're at $39 million.
It's kind of floundering a little bit. Is it doing okay foreign so far?
$54 million. So I mean,
decent. They'll make some money.
They made a little bit of cash. It's not bad. The Accountants at number 4 only made $8.5 million this week. They haven't done so well at all, really.
It's just fallen off.
Yeah, about $80 million total.
I feel like that movie was received by just this kind of like, okay, I guess that exists.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I got a Jason Bourne but Ben Affleck vibe. It's kind of
that's a good way of describing it. I think
that was my vibe from just the trailer.
That's a good title too. I think
Jason Bourne but Ben Affleck this time. Well, what's his name? Not Hawkeye.
Not Hawkeye.
Yeah. Sorry, I skipped one. Ouija, Origin of Evil is number 5. They made another $7 million this week, which isn't bad.
It's literally the only horror movie out, isn't it?
Probably. I mean, Don't Breathe might still even be in theaters. Like I saw it at AMC. I didn't actually see it, but I saw it on the listings at AMC a couple of days back.
Is it still around?
I think
that's smart of them.
I don't think there's been much coming out recently though. There's been kind of a little drop.
They have to feel really good about themselves that Don't Breathe stuck around so much past when Blair Witch fell out of the box office.
That's kind of a compliment, when you bring back an old series like that. Not even an old series, just
people were kind of excited about the new Blair Witch. I remember they were like, "Oh,
my mom was excited." She's like, "I remember when the first one came out." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Girl on the Train's number 6.
How much has that made?
Ooh, total?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, sorry, it's number 5. No, it's number 6.
You're having trouble with the list this week.
They put the number that it was last week next to the number that it is this week, and so I saw the 5. I'm like, oh, it's number 5, but no, it's number 6. They made $122 million total.
So they're profitable.
Very profitable. $45 million budget. Miss Peregrine's still in there as well. Hasn't made a profit that it looks like.
But that one I think is big overseas, if I recall correctly.
Huge overseas there too.
They're what? Almost 300 million?
Almost 2.5 million.
Well,
sorry,
250 million.
Yeah, sorry. My decimal points are getting thrown off.
Decimal points, numbers.
Numbers in general. Keeping Up with the Joneses. They made some money, maybe. No one knows the budget according to
That's the Zach Galifianakis one, right?
Yes, the other one, not the first one. Not Masterminds.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, is that on there still too?
No.
Oh, I was going to say, when did Masterminds start making money?
It didn't. But they made $15 million total. That's not too bad. It's not too great either. Storks is apparently still in the running as well.
I think it's just only kids movie.
Yes. Yeah, kind of like,
Jack Reacher's hanging on. I'm still just loving that title.
Number 10, we have a surprise runner-up in here, though. We got Aidilai Mushkil.
Is that a Bollywood?
It is. Made $2 million. It's pretty scary that if you can make $2 million that you get in the top 10 of the box office. I feel like we can make $2 million.
Can we top
let's make
a
Bollywood
movie? Well, it's interesting. I don't know when that started, but I have noticed that it's really not uncommon for all of our local movie theaters to play Bollywood movies now.
Oh, yeah. Like the Dollar Theater played one instead of Deadpool whenever I went there.
That's right.
Yeah, that was a very interesting experience.
I
wish they would have played the Bollywood movie. It was a lot more interesting.
Oh, but you kind of liked Deadpool even.
But yeah. I mean, it's complicated. I mean,
It's
like,
a complicated relationship.
It wasn't
with Deadpool.
good. Like, I wouldn't say it was a good movie, but I wasn't saying it was as bad as I expected. It's kind of
That's fair.
yeah. I mean, you know.
I think it's perhaps it should be inspiring in different ways than it is to Hollywood. If $2 million worth of Bollywood movie that kind of doesn't even have that much exposure in America can make more money than most of what they're putting out in a week. What that says to me is if you go after sort of a niche audience and get the right sort of project with the right sort of people, you can do all right.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're still going to see just tentpole after tentpole until something crazy
I think it was
happens.
just good timing, mostly. I mean,
Yeah, it's kind of a slow period.
With such a huge like just movie drought going on, and then
We had that piece a few weeks ago about Paramount potentially being one of the studios that could go under because they're kind of shuffling all their releases. The Deadline ran an article called about Brad Gray fighting for Paramount's future, as he's kind of taken it over and he's talking up all their projects that they have. And with the exception of I think the next Mission Impossible movie, it looks like they're really going after kind of that Oscar sort of movies with directors who have some
clickbait the movie.
Well, they're going after sort of esteemed directors by picking up their projects that were funded independently for distribution. So they've got Denzel Washington's directorial debut, which is coming out. They've got the new Scorsese movie, Silence, and a couple other ones. And what's interesting is the ones that they seem most proud of, that Paramount is really excited about, that's going to put them back on the map, are not the ones that they developed. They're ones that were made independently that Paramount then entered into a distribution deal
They're just
for.
going to let everyone else do the work. And then...
Which maybe is the way to go.
Yeah. I mean, if they can make it on their own, then they just need you to distribute it.
So,
I mean,
somebody's got to distribute.
Yeah.
But I wonder what that means if some of these major studios, like maybe Sony and Paramount, should just be distributors and not have to deal with the creative side.
Do we need big studios anymore? Are we past big studio?
It's a marketing thing primarily, I think, because
It's
you've
just
got
having a name on there.
Well, I think what it is primarily is that with the big studio, you can get like a lot wider exposure because they have those connections and will pay for that, and that's not as big of a deal. But in theory, no. In theory, you can make something completely independently and throw it out there and see how it does. I know that probably the best example of that right now is Louis C.K. with Horace and Pete. Did you hear about that at all?
Oh, was that his TV show? Not TV show, but it was the other.
It was a series that he made, and he made it completely secretly. He would release an episode every week on his site. He paid for it entirely himself.
Nice.
And his plan was, if he just throws it out there on his site by charging, I think some of the episode prices ranged from like $3 to $5 an episode.
Weird.
He hadn't quite decided how he wanted to do that. And his hope was that enough people would watch them that it would pay for the future episodes, because he was still working on the season as he was releasing them. And it didn't. So he had to take out money, and he was like broke for a little while. And he said it's just fine now. It's kind of made the money. But this was sort of a mainstream experiment in, can his name alone sell a project that really doesn't have any marketing, and he didn't really spend...
Like host it on his own site and everything?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
No middleman. And he owns the site, or he owns the show entirely. Like, it is entirely his project. So that's interesting. We're not quite at the point, I think, where people figured out how to make that fully successful. But in theory, we should be right on the edge of not needing the middleman.
You think that would, I don't know, something like YouTube would be able to do that well? Can't you set up a price for pretty much anything you want to have rented? And then,
if you have 1,000 subs or more, I think.
Weird. I feel like if they just open that up to anybody and be like, yeah, charge for your...
Well, Amazon kind of has it.
Okay.
It's kind of how we did adaptation. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But I thought that was interesting as far as something that Paramount's doing. Also, I noticed that James Cameron has been talking up the new innovations that will continue to propel Avatar, the series, into being the craziest series of all
is gonna
time.
be even better now.
He's going to push for higher frame rates, and he wants 3D without glasses. He says we'll get there.
I was wondering if that was... Well, I mean, we're kind of there, but I don't know if it's...
I don't understand how you can do that. I don't get it.
I don't know. I know it's possible. Like, there's the little Nintendo, handheld that has 3D, and you don't have to wear glasses for it. But it's kind of like it's weird because it looks like you like look into it. Like it's bizarre.
That's honestly kind of an interesting concept to me.
Yeah, it looks like you're looking into like a little panorama. I mean, the weird thing is, and I can see why this would be a problem with theaters, though, if you're not looking like directly at it. Like if you go to the sides, you can see how the image gets kind of funky because you have to. It like knows where your eyes are or something like that, so it can like. I don't know how it all works. But yeah, like if you're not looking at it dead on or at like the right angle, like it'll look weird and like choppy and funky.
That is interesting.
But yeah, so I can see why that might be a problem with a larger theater scale.
What's the last 3D movie you saw?
Probably Avatar. Spy Kids 3D. No, I feel like I saw one. Maybe that wasn't after Avatar. Toy Story 3, I think I saw in 3D.
That was probably after Avatar. That sounds
I think
right.
so.
Okay.
That was probably it. And that was that same kind of like not really in your face 3D, like just kind of like the.
Although to be fair, 3D basically is saying in your face, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
Kind of.
It doesn't have to.
I feel like we're over 3D.
Yeah, I mean, everyone kind of is, I think. It's just a novelty,
I saw The Last Airbender in 3D.
Oh, no.
Which was...
I mean, did it make the movie better?
No. I don't think anything could make that movie better. M. Night's got his new one coming out, though.
Does he really? What is he working on?
It's called Split.
Ooh.
And what I've noticed is his new trend, because people talk about the
twist.
Shyamalan-essence
okay.
as... So The Visit happened, basically. So he's gone off his big budget movies that people are like, why are you still making those movies?
Okay.
Well, why don't you make good ones again? And so he came back with The Visit, which people praised as if it was some big comeback. We saw it. It was all right.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, really, but it wasn't my favorite.
Good ideas.
And spoilers for The Visit, if you want to skip the next minute or so. The twist with that was that rather than it being supernatural, it was mental illness in nature of the threat.
Yeah.
So his next movie, continuing that trend, is about a man with dissociative identity disorder.
And he goes to live with his grandparents, right?
No. So it's a man kidnaps 3 young women, and he's got 23 personalities inside of him.
Oh, man.
And he thinks there's a beast coming, like a beast personality that's
Sounds
coming
like a Chuck
out.
Palahniuk book.
Yeah.
He kidnaps these people, but he's also 23 different people. And it's
Well,
like,
I feel like M. Night he might get in a little bit of trouble if he keeps going with this mental disorder as horror.
Everyone with a mental disorder is going to kidnap you.
Or kill your grandparents.
But what if he's not the crazy one? They're the crazy ones, and they kidnapped him.
Maybe all 3 of the girls are him.
Yeah, right.
And he hasn't actually kidnapped anyone.
He's kidnapped himself 3
Yes.
times now. He hasn't figured it out yet.
I have heard there is a twist.
Oh yeah, that's like his whole thing. I feel like he just kind of like, this is what he does. He tries
I've
to come up with
heard,
twists.
and I don't know if it's accurate or not, but my understanding is he gave some masterclass or something at some point, and he told people the way to write a really good script is you write the last 5 pages first, and then you figure out how you do it. Which maybe works occasionally.
I think that works if you're trying to write a twist, yes.
Yes.
But I mean, I don't know if it works in every situation.
I don't know if he meant it as a general rule or if he was talking about the way that I got the Sixth Sense to work or whatever. Okay. But so I don't know. I'm not super optimistic about this next one, but I will guarantee you it will be better than The Last Airbender.
Yeah, and I guarantee you will probably go see it.
Oh yeah. Well, the problem is I really do like his little phase of the 3 or 4 good movies in there.
Yeah.
And I really would like to see more like
Signs,
that.
I like most of those movies. I didn't like The Village, but that was a long time ago, so I feel like
I like The Village. I know I'm a loner in that for the most part. Yeah. Unbreakable, I think, is really good.
I never watched that one. That's the one where Bruce Willis is Superman instead of dead, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is fun. Okay, so one other interesting piece of news that I came across from Variety this week was that there's this new independent movie called Manchester by the Sea, which stars Casey Affleck.
I just heard about that today.
And I don't really know a lot about it, but it was originally going to star Ben Affleck, or not Ben Affleck. We keep getting into what if Ben Affleck? It's because
I get thinking Ben Affleck too. I'm like,
it was originally going to star Matt Damon. And Matt Damon had to drop out because of scheduling issues, and Casey Affleck came in to play the role. Now, the problem when Amazon, is paying for it, you've got distribution, and you got this little independent movie that maybe doesn't have a crazy long line, is when Matt Damon's in it, a certain number of people are probably going to check it out no matter what. Casey Affleck's in it, you don't really know.
Is he Ben's little brother?
He's Ben's little brother.
Okay.
And he's a very good actor, but he's not a movie star.
Okay.
He picks sort of more character-y roles as opposed to the... Like, I doubt he'll play
Batman.
a superhero. Yes. Or Daredevil. Or the accountant. Accountant man. Numbers man. So Matt Damon drops out, and it sounds like everybody was kind of saying, I don't know if we want to give you money now.
Aw. Kind of sucks.
So they ended up working out a contract where the director wouldn't get final cut as part of what the financiers were requiring, and instead final cut went to Matt Damon
because he's got time to do that.
Matt Damon, who is not in the movie anymore, but is bankable, who can tell the director what's going to make money based on that instead of what the director can do.
See like a poster, it's like "Final Cut" by Matt Damon.
Yeah,
it's
the weirdest
starring Casey Affleck.
Yeah, so okay, the film was ultimately made possible because Kimberly Stewart, daughter of billionaire businessman David L. Stewart, fell in love with the script and agreed to finance the production through her new company, K. Media. And that was only under the clause that Matt Damon has ultimate control over the cut, which is the weirdest deal.
Can't we just like hologram him in now? Like, I mean, we have concerts with like Michael Jackson in them. Can't they just like, they put Matt Damon in the movie?
I just don't know. I mean, if your logic is Matt Damon being in it will make money, I don't know why Matt Damon potentially suggesting cuts is going to really fix that problem.
Just Matt Damon hanging out in the editing room.
And so it sounds like he kind of was like,
what's Matt's opinion on all this? What does he think?
Matt has a quote. Let me find it. Essentially, the idea was that he said, basically, I don't think I'm going to need to use this because clearly he knows what he's doing. And so I think Matt Damon, it sounds like, was as his way of saying, I'm sorry I didn't do your movie. I will do what it takes to make sure you still get the funding to do it, and I'm just going to leave you alone.
Okay.
But they can pretend like I'm as involved as they want to pretend.
Well, he probably still gets paid too then. That's a good deal.
It sounds like he's involved somehow. So yeah, I don't know what. I wonder if he has a credit or if he's a producer on it. I don't see that in here, but yeah, he says something about how he's not going to use the credit or he didn't use the power of Final Cut because there is a director who wrote the script whose job probably it should be to do that.
Have a director's cut where it's a completely different movie.
The Matt Damon cut.
Yeah.
I love that it wouldn't even. Matt Damon's not a director. He's not in it.
Matt Damon's Final Cut.
Yeah. Why don't we just get a series of Matt Damon recuts famous movies for no apparent reason? One last thing in the news here, which is eventually, I think, going to have to lead to a future episode topic.
Oh, okay.
Which is... Okay, let me ask you this really quickly. This will be a snippet before we get to that episode at some point.
Okay.
I'm going to snip away, so be prepared for some snips. All right. Snip. Does the potential... I mean, okay, when you like a movie, how much does the director's personal life factor into your enjoyment of a movie?
Like, pretty much none.
Yeah.
Like...
Okay, so
I don't really...
Is that a blanket statement general? Like, in general, I know obviously there's exceptions to kind of everything like this, but in general, say, like, you read a book.
Okay. You
probably don't think a ton about Chuck Palahniuk's personal life.
No.
If you were to hear something weird about Chuck Palahniuk, maybe it's a bad example because he's weird and those are weird books anyway, you'd be like, that makes sense.
No, I don't know. I think their work life and personal life are separate.
Okay.
So that's fine.
And I know some people don't feel that way, and they feel that people shouldn't get either money to keep working, which is probably a more legitimate argument than we should retroactively not respect movies that we respected as a result of that.
Ooh, what are we not supposed to respect now? I'm curious.
Well, like the famous examples that we have out there are Polanski, Woody Allen, a couple other ones like that.
Let's do that.
The new one
Stop watching good movies because I don't like the director.
Tippi Hedren, who starred in Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds and Marnie, claims the director stalked and sexually assaulted and harassed her when she worked with him in the 60s.
Okay.
And there was even kind of a movie about that HBO made that had a really weird Hitchcock. And so he would kind of like spy on her as she was dressing and apparently do some of these weird things. And it sounds like people kind of had a sense that he had some problems, especially with women. He was a very awkward guy in that sense.
Yeah.
This is maybe a little bit a step further.
I don't know. My opinion here is that Lewis Carroll was big into little girls, and everyone still goes to see Alice in Wonderland, and so I don't know.
I haven't heard a single person mention that.
Yeah, no one's gonna be like, oh, but Lewis Carroll was a bit of a perv. You know, I'm not gonna go see.
What are they English?
I don't know. It's just a
That Lewis Carroll,
a bit of a perv. It's a snotty tone. I don't know. I feel like he's probably English, isn't he? I don't know where he's from.
Yeah, no,
I
the affectation you picked up for the character.
That's the kind of person I feel like would go see Alice in Wonderland. No, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't matter. And I think people are just cherry picking to make a controversy out of something that's 50, 60 years old at this point.
I do think there's a very different argument between, like, say, should we still give money to people who potentially do things like that as working artists versus are the good movies that Alfred Hitchcock made somehow retroactively bad now because of that? I think there's different levels of potential validity to those two arguments.
I feel like, if you're actually working and doing something, you do something weird, then okay, you're going to deal with some backlash from that. That's just kind of how it goes. But I mean, when, it's been who knows how long. What was it? When did The Birds come out? 60-something?
This was
that would have been a solid 55 years by now.
That's
I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's too late to make a big stink about it, I think. I mean, yes, it's a big controversy and whatnot, if that, but nice. But, it doesn't, I don't think it makes a prior work bad because of it. I mean, plenty of artists do some weird crap. This is what they do.
That's kind of, that's the artist thing.
Yeah.
And I want to do, one of these upcoming weeks, let's just do a whole episode about this. Right. I want to get a little round table.
Yeah.
So we have
let's
other
start
voices.
Some controversy.
Yeah, let's get a whole conversation. Yeah. But in the meantime, are there any other news things you had on your agenda?
I didn't see anything, no.
All right, that's it for the news then. We're going to go to another break. We'll be back with Quad 3, wherein we really get into election.
Oh, yes.
It's election time. Unfortunately. All I want to do is not think about elections. But
this is our last time thinking about it, though.
God, let's hope so.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll be right back.
We are brought to you today by the Supernauts, pop culture's junk drawer. Head on over to thesupernauts.com for the latest movie news, editorials, reviews, podcasts, and comic strips like Studio Head. Debate, discuss, geek out. Head over today.
We all know it doesn't matter who gets elected president of Carver. Do you really think it's going to change anything around here? Make one single person smarter, or happier, or nicer? The only person it does matter to is the one who gets elected. The same pathetic charade happens every year, and everyone makes the same pathetic promises just so they can put it on their transcripts to get into college. So vote for me, because I don't even want to go to college, and I don't care. And as president, I won't do anything. The only promise I will make is that, if elected, I will immediately dismantle the student government so that none of us will ever have to sit through one of these stupid assemblies again. Or don't vote for me. Who cares? Don't vote at all.
Probably not a part of any movie that better captures some of the rage of this election.
Just the way we feel in general.
Well,
just don't vote.
Before we get into the big analysis, I guess, sort of the background, and we should probably cite at least one source that we're using to kind of react to as we get into this. You know what it is.
Do you have to cite sources when you're speaking out loud?
It's not so much citing a source as we're kind of reacting to a specific article because the parallels between at least Hillary Clinton and Tracy Flick, and then we're going to talk a little bit about where Trump fits in and where Mr. McAllister fits into all this.
Okay.
This was something that I think the first time the inkling of it kind of hit my mind was when I saw Kurt Anderson and Jonathan Alter talked at Film Streams earlier this year, and they played a little clip from election, and they were just talking about politics and movies.
Yeah.
And so Kurt Anderson was talking about the connection between Flick and Clinton. That's something that's been made over the years, and as this article kind of points out, Reese Witherspoon has even said, "I already played Hillary Clinton in a movie. I don't need to again." And so I ended up looking, and I found that there's a New York Magazine article that explicitly talks about the connections between this election and the movie election. which is called what is it? The Very Uncomfortable Experience of Rewatching Election in 2016, and it's definitely something that the very uncomfortable part is what she's reacting to, which is to say that because of reality, when she goes back and rewatches Election, she feels uncomfortable for various reasons. And kind of one quote that I think kind of sums up what she's talking about. She says, 17 years ago, Election's portrayal of a chronically emasculated teacher's campaign to destroy his most talented female student was darkly comedic. Today, with a dick-obsessed demagogue unleashing vitriol toward the most ambitious woman in American history, Election is downright brutal.
See, I don't know if I quite agree with that, because I feel like half the joke is that like they all know that she's going to be successful anyways. I mean, it's not like I think she took it a little too personally there.
The whole they all know she's going to be successful anyway seems very accurate to this election too.
I know, yeah.
We basically know how it's going to turn out, and people have varying degrees of anger or resentment or excitement or complacency about that. Yeah. And I think the movie represents all of that.
It's interesting. Yeah.
I think it really does cover all sides, and I think one thing that's very interesting that the New York Magazine article covers that you don't really hear about is this idea of toxic masculinity is something that I don't think was really being talked about in 1999.
No.
It's very popular today, especially among, in sort of the web socially conscious conversation that you get on whether it's blogs or whether it's just sort of the more progressive websites.
Blogs.
Well, I feel like it's the blogs and websites are merged into one thing now.
Yeah.
Facebook, sure. And so this idea of toxic masculinity sort of directly combined with this idea of the disenfranchised male who doesn't really have social mobility as an option is actually very perfectly captured through the Mr. McAllister character. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that Alexander Payne was necessarily reflecting on a movement so much as he felt that was definitely the way to get that character to drive that character is his own potential problems and rage with being stuck in the classroom. Because like when Tracy's talking about Mr. McAllister, all he does is he talks about the same things, he wears the same things, he gives the same lectures.
All his students go on to do better things than he does, and
I think that if you were to really look into that for that what the Trump voter who's angry is, who may, whether they have a good point or a bad point, without reducing them to being a bigot, it's that Jim McAllister type character.
Okay.
And the fact that he's the one who recruits Paul to try to get, it's really because he wants to just throw a wrench in the fact that it's always the same.
He wants to throw off the system.
Yeah, he wants to throw off the system without it turning into he doesn't want to burn the system to the ground, but he wants to throw it off, and he sees Paul as, this guy who literally says, I know how to win. I'm really good at it. Remember when I, won in football against West Side? And
which is where I went to school, so that's exciting,
And so I think if you want to make these parallels, it's very funny to think of Jim McAllister as sort of the well-meaning and justifiably angry, disenfranchised person who does want to see some change to the system. And when he's talking about the oranges and the apples, he's like, you're used to oranges. Even if you get a bad orange, you're used to it. Or if you're used to apples, if you're used to, if that's all you eat, even a bad one, you're like, well, that's what I eat. Yeah. And so this idea of changing it, that's the almost sympathetic argument if you don't get dwelling on the toxic masculinity idea. But then what I think is, so I think if you want to look at it that parallel, Paul kind of works as Trump in that sense, but then Tammy comes in as the dark side of what the Trump voter wants, which is just the nihilistic, nothing matters, let's burn it all down. And then I think you make a good point, which is both, I think on both sides of the parties, you see this sense of these kind of outsiders come in who are like, we're really going to change it all because we really care, whether that's completely burning it down, we're going to take down the banks, we're going to take down Wall Street. Trump's got this whole we're going to
drain the swamp.
Drain the swamp.
Didn't they say that specifically? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that quote came up right in the movie.
That's where I think you see this anger.
Yeah.
Just as demonstrated through Tammy is pretty much what we saw with both parties this year through Bernie Sanders and Trump.
Yeah, she had that weird Bernie Trump kind of Venn diagram thing going on where she's right in the middle, and then she has a point where she pretty much has to drop out essentially to not split the vote.
And this idea that the establishment is so threatened by that speech, as if it's just a speech.
It wasn't even a speech. It was just this all sucks. Don't vote. I don't care.
Don't vote. I don't care is terrifying to them.
It is.
And I think that's hilarious because that really, we have the unintended consequences of of both being fed up with what exactly everyone knows is going to happen, with kind of just trying to change things because we can. Because change seems like it should be necessary, and it doesn't necessarily seem like it's being offered at all times. And then sometimes you end up with your Tammies. I think it's hilarious as a concept because it works so well just in the context of that movie. And it's really, I mean, for you to watch this for the very first time today, and I think it's probably hard not to see those as kind of a parallel.
It was
to what
weird.
you're watching.
I kept looking for them too. I feel like you kind of biased me a little bit, being like, "Oh yeah, this is going to be like the election."
You don't think
right
you
now.
would have noticed that though?
No, I definitely would have. I mean, like as even like this article points out, like she looks very Hillary-ish in general. Like she looks like a Hillary Clinton. Like they get like the look right. Like they have, I don't know, just the way she acts. Like it feels like a. She feels like the politician who probably should be the politician and probably should be, elected, but for some reason...
But everyone hates her anyway.
Yeah, everyone hates her, and for some reason you're like, I kind of want to see someone else win, but then it's like,
There was a great line in the article that I want to find again that's kind of summed up that idea, which I thought was very funny. Yeah, okay, so... in this article, she's talking about how her view of Flick changed over the years, where at first she sort of laughed at Tracy, and now she feels like it's more poignant, more heartbreaking in a way, where she says, "It wasn't until this year I picked up on the brief but heartbreaking moments depicting the idealistic teenager's wounded confusion when she does everything she is supposed to do, but discovers that everyone hates her anyway." Which I think is it simplifies things a little too much, but as a basic idea, it does capture this idea that
Is stepping on everyone to win really what you should do, though? I mean, if you do that, you kind of walk into people hating you, because that's what happens when you do that.
I think this is what people don't like about both Tracy and Hillary, is that they know the system so well that they know every little button to push, and no one likes when someone does that. Yeah. But you can see why they think that's what they should do to get to what they want.
Exactly how not to answer every question.
Well, and then I think with both of them, Tracy doesn't really care about, I don't think, what the job is. She just wants to do the job.
Yeah, she feels like it's her destiny, as she mentions at one point, to do it. And so that's just how it's going to be. And that's how it'll end up.
People don't like that attitude.
No.
Because they'd rather see...
they like to think that there's some free will to the system, I think.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, they like to think that, our free will gives the system free will, but it's all still kind of locked down.
The hunt for free will and the problem of free will actually is a beautiful way to frame the whole movie. Because you got this ethics versus morals. It's all a bunch of people making decisions with free will.
But bad decisions.
Yes, they don't use their free will well. Like trying to rig the election was not a good act of free will.
Multiple times even. Like not even just by, rigging the votes, by, throwing more candidates into the mix.
Yeah, I mean he's trying to throw it all. He's doing his free will because he wants to feel like he can change things. And I love that in the end all he does is mess things up more for himself in doing so.
Well, I feel like it would have little to no effect on him anyways, seeing as he's not he's not even a high school student at this point. It's he's totally out of it. He's just kind of like watching, and he's like, I'm just going to mess with this for fun. And
it's for his own. I don't think it's for fun. I think it's he feels that it's right.
You know what I mean. Like,
he needs to take her down to feel his own worth, which is the darkest way of looking at the Trump supporter.
Well, and it could be a little bit of, there's a little bit of revenge in there mixed in, because she gets his best friend, fired.
That's another aspect too. The sex scandals.
Yes.
Which the movie also includes.
Well, I didn't realize this was based off a book though.
It is based off a book.
Shocked my mind a little bit there. It was like.
So it's not all Payne. It's Tom Perrotta, and then Payne and Jim Taylor wrote it.
The article brought up that it came out like not long after the whole Monica Lewinsky scandal came out as news, anyways.
But probably it was written before was out there.
I mean, so it's interesting that it lines up.
Although I think Bill Clinton had certainly had his various potential sex problems in the past. Even before that. So, but it's definitely. I love this idea of the looming sex scandals also being just another thing on top of everything else that this movie is able to keep in there.
I still don't understand why who people are having sex with is a reason to vote or not vote for somebody.
That
really bothers me that that's like a thing.
But it does matter to people.
I know, but I know. I'm just saying that I don't.
Well, okay, yeah, that's a fair point because even McAllister kind of uses that as a blackmail to Tracy to say that I'm going to let everyone know that you had an affair with a teacher.
Yeah.
Because all that really does is, I think, throw off this goody two-shoes idea that everyone knows she's not really, but she really tries to pretend that she is.
He could have used that. I feel like she didn't really have anything on him besides, he couldn't get his wife pregnant. There's that
But that's all
toxic masculinity coming back in there.
It's
He's
it's his insecurities that's the problem. So
Okay.
it's not how the public perceives him, it's how he perceives himself, which is why she knew exactly where to hit him. And I love that.
That's great.
It's so funny. And it's I'd much rather watch Election than watch our actual election right now.
It was better than the debates, It's more talk of real policy in this movie too.
Well, it's still kind of depressing though, I think, at the end of the day.
Oh, it's super depressing.
I mean, that's a hilarious movie, but it cuts so deep, and it's so there's so much. It's like, let's look at how every single person in every part of the system is secretly really pathetic and has terrible self-esteem, except for the one guy who just parties and. And I guess Tammy maybe not quite as much. The Metzlers are doing
she's
okay.
alright. Tammy's just kind of there because she wants to be.
But Tracy doesn't feel good about herself, really.
No, I don't think so.
It's all ambition.
I don't think she realizes she doesn't feel good about herself until what's his name points it out, Dave.
Using her vulnerability to his advantage.
And she twists the quote a little bit at the end too. Did you notice that? I thought that was interesting. She doesn't say the quote the way he said it back to her. He's like, has Dave told me, like, you have to be lonely if you want to succeed.
And he said, if you're successful, then you don't have friends.
Yeah. And I don't know.
Well, that's another interesting part of it all with how
Hillary. No,
I don't know, because Hillary doesn't seem to have
friends.
Does she? Does Trump have friends?
I don't know.
I don't know.
What even are friends? Like, what defines a friend?
Friends is just a social construct.
It is though.
That's very social. Yes. So I guess if we're going back to the article a little bit here, I'm intrigued by the way that reality shapes how we watch that movie is fascinating to me. Because I don't know, like, could you ever watch that movie and not be thinking about Hillary and Trump and all this craziness?
Maybe in like 5 years.
You think so?
I forget about it. Yeah, because I think this election's going to blow over. They always do. I mean,
but this movie seems so in tune with where the country is right now.
It probably seems in tune with a lot of election seasons, though.
I don't know if you watched that during Romney and Obama, you'd get as much like, this is exactly what's happening. Yeah, part of it's just because
Reese Witherspoon is totally Obama here. This is ridiculous.
Yes, there are. Well, because I think it's definitely a satire about our election process. And so there's various elements that for sure, just the way that we have elections and the way that our culture responds to elections is definitely encompassed in it. But you're never going to find an election, I don't think, that's more...
like, just a perfect example of life imitating art.
Yeah. And in a much less nuanced and stupider and more depressing way.
Which one? The movie or the...
reality.
Okay. Never mind.
This movie's it's very well done.
I wish our election was this, calm and not insane. Like this,
Yeah, if people were quiet about all their problems, well, like, quietly deceiving people and making all these problems and cutting corners, that's much more interesting than just screaming about it all the time. Like, one of my favorite parts of the movie is just Reese Witherspoon's face when Tammy comes in saying she knows who tore down all the posters.
Oh yeah, and like
just
she doesn't know like what's going on.
She thinks she's about to get ratted out.
I love when she yells at her for it too. Like that's such a
quickly your head. And he knows, and they know. Well, I think that's totally our election right now too. Everyone. Like, I'm willing to look past the email thing in hopes that she's not going to be doing that again. That there actually will be changes in policy, hopefully.
I want to see like pictures of her like on her BlackBerry like during the debate or something.
But even people who completely support her, I don't think they can say that there was no fault at all there. And people know when it's wrong. But you're kind of you'll take the rotten apple, I guess, is the kind of the moral.
Better than an orange, I guess.
It's better. An apple is better than an orange, even if it's bad. And the bananas, we don't even know what to do with the bananas.
No, well, no, you conspire against the banana and you get them kicked
Get rid
out.
of those bananas.
Yeah. I noticed though when he goes for the bowl of fruit, he picks out the banana, neither the apple nor the orange in his fruit bowl.
Paul does.
Yes, Paul. Sorry.
And then when McAllister is cheating on his wife, he walks past a bunch of apple trees.
Is that what that was? Okay.
Yeah.
And then he gets.
And there's various fruit shots throughout the movie that are interesting.
Wonder if there's some subtext there. Right? With some
I think
apples and oranges
it's choices.
And bananas.
I think it's always the choices you can make because the movie's so interested in this ethics and morals and people who preach about ethics and morals. where do you actually fall in that? Where do in terms of both the election and just the characters, what is the happy medium between what you want and what you probably should do?
Okay.
Which I think is also something that we're grappling with right now. Because isn't that kind of like we'd love someone who's not Hillary, probably in terms of like someone who hits more boxes that people
someone
like.
new and like just not the same old political oligarchy that we seem to be stuck in.
But then we see what our choices are, and we think maybe we should stick with it though.
It's like that lesser of two evils thing.
But then in the end, so she wins, which Hillary possibly will win, possibly won't win. But if she wins, I think, like the movie, no one's really going to solve their issues. No one's really going to get past what caused all this conflict to begin with.
7 years down the road, if she's still in office, she'll get her one bill passed, then her term will be up, and then that seems to be how the political system works here. I mean, it took 8 years for Obama to get Obamacare going.
No, he got it pretty quick.
No, it didn't it actually.
It was like first 2 years, I believe.
I don't think
it was going. He passed that very quickly, and then it took a couple years to get all implemented. But that's just the process of kind of making a change.
Implementing it then. So making the change, the important part of the whole thing. You can write whatever you want down on a piece of paper, but if the change doesn't get implemented, it doesn't matter. I don't know, because I didn't remember that going into effect. Like what? No, I guess it was probably 2 years ago, maybe 3. But still, no. I mean, the fact that even if Hillary's in there, it's going to take her 5 years to do anything. It's not a good.
Depends
sign.
on Congress, probably more than anything. But okay, one question I have for you about Tracy at the end of the movie.
Yes.
She's there with the representative of Nebraska, the Republican representative of Nebraska. I'll point it out.
Okay.
Are we supposed to take away from that, aside from the fact that she's continuing to be upwardly mobile in a way that Mr. McAllister probably never will be, that she is still either prey to or becoming on sort of the predatory side of unhealthy relationships for power plays?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'm never quite sure if that's the subtext.
I didn't look into it that way, but that's an interesting way to see it. I just took it as like she's there with, she's just moving up in local government kind of thing, like, just getting out there. But yeah, I could definitely see that.
I wasn't sure.
Getting in the back of his limo and whatnot.
Yeah, and part of the whole epilogue has McAllister is clearly still very much thinking about his own sexuality is on his mind. He keeps the shots of the Cro-Magnon penis and
oh yeah.
And they show that
what
a
happens
lot.
when a man loses everything?
His own masculinity. I don't know that toxic masculinity is quite the right word for it, but he definitely has his own problems with his own feeling emasculated. Insecurity about his own masculinity is definitely there, or just his what his identity is as he ties it to his masculinity. And so the way that he uses sexuality in the movie is different from the way that Tracy uses it, and he's got his own problems with it. I'm curious how we're supposed to take if she.
Okay.
Well, I guess the question is kind of, is she past that? Is she going to use it to continue? Like, is she going to keep cutting corners occasionally, like tearing down signs and lying about it?
Don't they all? Isn't that what you have to do? Yeah, I assume so. Yeah. I didn't see it, but once you pointed it out, it seems kind of obvious. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
It's at least a potential implication. I don't know for sure how much Payne wanted to play with that or not. But it seemed like maybe just another thing to get McAllister to just completely break at the end there. I love that.
I figured he just snapped because he saw her in general, and it's like, but he's like, I moved so far away from you, but you're still following me.
Well, no, because when he sees her, his monologue starts all calm. He's like, he's like kind of lying to himself, like, it doesn't bother me that she's there. And then he starts thinking about her success and how far is she going to go? Yeah. Who is she? Who's she going to be? Then he has to throw.
Who do you think?
And then he resorts to pointless violence. Yeah, just like the caveman trying to solve his problem with
flinging his crap.
I love it. I think it's perfect.
That was great.
I think this might be a perfect movie. I would say
everyone should watch this after this election season. I think. Just to learn from our mistakes.
Do you think this movie retroactively gets more depressing or
I wouldn't know, would I?
Bothersome? Well, but
shouldn't I ask you this question? Is it more depressing? Is it more bothersome now that this year has happened?
Maybe not quite to the extent that I think the New York Magazine article suggests.
I think you're a little bit better at separating reality and movies than some people are. I mean, just with the, I don't know, even the whole toxic masculinity thing. As you said, it's not necessarily that. It's just, some insecurity that's getting at him, and he takes it out in the wrong way.
And it is masculine insecurity about his about his masculinity and manliness, manhood.
But they try to connect it to like alt-right, like whack jobs and whatnot. I don't think he's quite at that level.
Well,
like I think he's just this insecure teacher who's watching everything go to shit around him, and he freaks out a little bit.
And like I was kind of saying when we were starting talking about this, I think if anything, McAllister represents, certainly Payne makes him pathetic to probably an exaggerated degree, but what the actually probably decent arguments for someone wanting to stop someone like Hillary Clinton, he represents sort of someone who feels that his potential mobility has been changed and that the system is not really working to his advantage, and so he does want to just throw something out there to try to reclaim some glory.
Well, in a weird way, he kind of is the system, seeing as he's the one he has to count all the votes, and
that's another ironic part of it.
It's weird, yeah.
I think when I watch it, it's really hard for me not to think about our political system in more overt ways. Probably before it was something where I could, you can see what critiques are being made and what is being satirized in a more sort of abstract, like some voters do X, Y, Z. This sentiment, like the different sorts of ways that we approach elections, where we'd like the exciting, like, who cares? We're completely in control, like you were talking about. We really just want to have free will.
Yeah.
Which is actually what voting is.
But it's not.
But it's not quite that simple because it is a convoluted, potentially corrupt system all around. You do have rigging. You've got the system. You've got the establishment working against the subversive candidates. You've got it all in there.
It's a mess.
And I think our attention is just more drawn to... We have very concrete, current examples of that happening, so it's hard for me not to watch this and think about it. I mean, honestly, when I watched it today with you, I almost watch it as if I am watching someone make a satire about the current election.
Like it's a little independent spoof of this year in general.
It's like a really nuanced way of making fun of what's going on right now.
It's like eerily similar. Like it's bizarre.
And I don't know if I will be able to watch it again and not kind of feel that way. We'll see in 5 years, I guess.
Give it a rewatch in 5.
I don't know if it's hard to tell if it makes it more depressing, because I don't know if the movie, I guess the article kind of suggests that the movie is problematic in some of the ways that it deals with like the masculine character, in sort of, she questions whether Payne wants you to have legitimate sympathy with or root for McAllister, and she says basically her resolution is, no, this is part of the problem why we have all this. I don't know that I'm fully on board with the way that she's
I think it's set up
that
in a way that it's supposed to be like a regular political election where you get to choose who you want to win. You know what I mean? It's like you were like, oh, I want to see this guy mess with the vote, or oh, I want to see her win anyways, or oh, I want to see the football star win just because, and it's like, I don't know. I think you're supposed to kind of feel sympathetic for all of them, but not really any of them at the same time. I think it works in that way.
I think Payne does a good job of showing the flaws that everyone has, and also humanizes them in a way.
Yeah, because like Paul's not a good president, but he seems like a good guy. So you're like, well, maybe he'll be all right. And then Tammy's like, well, screw this, I'm gonna get rid of the whole thing. You're like, well, that might work too, And then it's like,
I mean, it's like, really not doing anything. Yeah, it's not really that good.
It's like it's student government. What's actually gonna happen? And then I feel like they do a good job of making you kind of want but not want any of them to win, which is very similar to a regular political election where you want one of them but you don't want them at the same time.
That's beautifully put, and I think that's the genius of the movie.
Yeah,
you walk away with how you feel about the real politics.
You're not happy with the result no matter who wins.
You're not happy. You're very conflicted. There's things you feel very passionate about, but you still don't know if you like them. And you don't know what to think, and you're just confused in the end. It's a beautiful movie. It's fun to talk about. So you like it?
Yes. This might be my first, second documentary fan, I guess. I forgot about Nebraska.
The Descendants, you've seen.
I did see The Descendants. That one doesn't strike me as the middle. Seeing as the Hawaii.
Yeah, it's not as Midwest.
It's not
But, all right, so this has been 5 Quadrants.
It has.
And
I think we only made it to Quad 3 though. That's all right.
It's all. Well, that's not 5.
It's all Quad 5.
It's all Quad 5, really. So, I'm Tom Novak.
I'm Chris Fago.
We'll be back next week with more 5 Quad.
See you guys later.